Y'all, my neighbor is on the phone talking so loudly about his ant problem that I can hear every word. But I just have to start. I cannot sit here just listening to my neighbor talking about his ant problem, waiting until he's done talking to start the video. So we're just gonna start the video, ant problem and all. Here we are once again at very close range. I'm gonna be applying makeup to my face. I have not a stitch on right now. I am only gonna be doing this. Applying this Maybelline Instant Age Rewind 4-in-1 Perfector, which I believe is like the first genuine. I know that there have been products in the drugstore that people have said in the past are like dupes for the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter, but I feel like this is the first thing that was truly conceived of as such a thing. It's being marketed as something that primes, conceals, and highlights, kind of like a highlighting BB cream. I have a whole array of products that I use in that capacity. The one from Auric, the one from Eldridge, and the one from Charlotte Tilbury are the ones that I think are the most similar to this one. So I'm gonna be comparing this to all of those. I have the lightest shade in all of those. Although people have been telling me that Crystal Nebula isn't the lightest shade of this, but then other people have been telling me that it is the lightest shade, I don't know. Anyway, I have the lightest shade of these two. I have the lightest shade of the Maybelline. I'm gonna put it on, I'm gonna swatch them all. We're gonna find out how good of a stand-in for these more luxurious products it really is. If this is your first time to my channel, then hi. I'm glad you're here. I'm Hannah. I love beautiful things. I really enjoy makeup and I like reviewing makeup. I don't run out and buy everything that's new and everything that sounds interesting. In my own collection, even as a makeup reviewer, I really prefer fewer, nicer things. But this one is so like the things that I truly love and, you know, purportedly a budget option that I just had to do it. So it's a dedicated video dedicated to this self-sponsored review of this Maybelline product. If all of what I just said sounds good to you and you're not subscribed, I hope you'll go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and let's get right into the meat of the video. I want to get right into putting it on my face. All I'm gonna be doing in this video is putting this on my face and then doing what I always do when I use one of these products, which is putting my base on top. So green color corrector, BB cream, concealer. Hello, is anybody home? Here we go. My greatest fear, I mean, it's not that serious, but the thing that I think will sabotage my relationship with this product right out of the gate is the shade. I'm worried that it's going to be several shades too dark for me, but you know, we'll find out together. But the other thing is, I'm not sure I want to put this sponge tip applicator right onto my face. I've been really careful lately not to like reuse tools. I've been trying to manage this healing acne, and that's one of the things that I've been doing. So I'm actually going to kind of sanitize the back of my hand with just a tiny bit of alcohol, and I'm just going to put the product on there and apply it from there. Okay, it looks a bit dark for me right out of the gate, but not all that darker. I just have to find out right away. No, it's actually a good bit darker than the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter, which is already kind of like too yellow and too dark for me. So this is gonna be too dark for me. I'm gonna have to, you know, cover it up, mix it with other stuff. But first, let's just do it. Let's apply it and just see how it goes. Oh yeah. Because the question is kind of like, how much of a concealer is it? I feel like that has always been the question. Like, how opaque is it? Let's blend this side out completely. Okay, first impressions. The finish is very beautiful and it's much more liquidy and glistening than I was expecting it to be. I expected it to have a bunch of shimmer in it, but it doesn't have that. It's more elegant than I was expecting. So it says primer, concealer, highlighter, and BB cream. Right now, I feel like it's definitely priming because my skin is feeling really lovely. It's definitely highlighting. And I think that if anyone bought this and they were really hoping that the concealer and BB cream claims, those 2 out of the 4 claims, were going to be the ones at the forefront and that it was just gonna be slightly highlighting, those people will be disappointed. It seems so far to be more of a highlighter and a primer than a concealer and a BB cream, which if the shade were light enough for me, I might be disappointed. Like I might be wishing that it was more of a foundation product, concealing product. Because this shade is obviously not the right shade for me, I'm glad that it's as sheer as it is, that it's something that I might be able to use to get a beautiful finish without compromising the tone of my skin, without it like darkening the tone of my skin so much that I just feel like it's working at cross purposes with my goals. As the kids are saying these days, I'm shook. The thing that it reminds me the most of these three products is Crystal Nebula, the Lisa Eldridge. Like if somebody on YouTube told me, what's happening in my life? This is what I was about to say. Here's my review. If somebody on YouTube told me that this was a spot on dupe for Crystal Nebula and I had Crystal Nebula and then I went out and got it and tried it, I would be like, you're right, girl, you're right. But why am I saying it that way? I am the person on YouTube. What I'm telling you is this, just, for the time being, and this time, the time in which we are being is within a minute of when I applied it. Right now, I feel like it's a spot on dupe for Crystal Nebula by Lisa Eldridge. And that's partly because Crystal Nebula also is kind of a dark shade for me. You can see where I'm coming from, right? So the Maybelline is here on this side, and underneath it on this side is Crystal Nebula, the Lisa Eldridge Elevated Glow. They're actually very similar in color. And there I blended them both out. They're also very similar in texture. Blended out, I'm seeing that the Maybelline is a little darker, has more of like a tan pigment in it. Crystal Nebula is really shearing out as I blend it out, almost to something just sort of champagne-y and invisible. I think that the kind of darker looking color of Crystal Nebula when it's first swatched is just because everything's so concentrated in a swipe that hasn't been blended out. Whereas the Maybelline, when it seems to like retain its pigment a little bit more when it's blended out. But these are really relatively slight differences. The formula of this Maybelline product is much closer to the formula of Lisa Eldridge Elevated Glow than it is to Charlotte Tilbury and the Auric Glow Lust. And that's because those two products have more body. They, to me, have more body and more pigment. I don't know, they're actually more like highlighters mixed with some sort of BB cream or concealer foundation product than these two, which both seem to me like they have that pigment in them, but then they really sheer out quite a lot. Like, it just looks like I put highlighter all over my face. It doesn't really look like I put any kind of coverage product on my face. What I'm gonna go ahead and do now is put the rest of my base on. I'm just gonna add some green color corrector, some BB cream, some concealer, try to do what I would do on a normal day with, usually one of these three, Auric, Lisa Eldridge, or Charlotte Tilbury, and then my other stuff. I'm gonna do that just to see how it goes, to make sure that doesn't pill or anything, to see if this glow still shows through. I feel like with this, there are two main questions. Number one, how does it look when you apply it? Or how does it go on? Like how does it feel and how does it look when you first apply it? And number two, how does it take the layering of other products atop it? Because after all, it is marketed as a primer. So what we have here are 3 dots of product. There's some green color corrector, some BB cream, and some concealer. I'm gonna mix them all together and apply that to my face in a thin layer and rub it in. Right now, I kind of feel like run, don't walk to this thing, unless you have other products like this, of course. I mean, I have said this before whenever I review a thing like this, but I feel like it bears repeating. I'm not saying that if you have the Auric one, you should get the Maybelline one too, because it's also great. Or if you already have the Lisa Eldridge, get the Maybelline one too. Or if you have Charlotte Tilbury, get the Maybelline one too. No, I'm saying if you've never had a product like this, if you don't buy luxury products, or if you can't afford something like this, but you've always wanted something that serves this function and you've been waiting and hoping that a brand that sells things at drugstore prices would develop something like this, I feel like it's definitely happened. There's nothing about this so far that's telling me like, oh, they tried, but they fell way short of the mark. They didn't really do what these other brands have done. No, I feel like they really did do what these other brands have done. I personally feel like a primer, a glowy product, something that you layer underneath your base, or really any base product, I personally feel like that's not a thing that one needs to have a huge array of, because ultimately they all serve the same purpose. Like concealers, there can be different kinds. Like you can have a spot concealer and a more liquidy concealer, but all more liquidy concealers serve essentially the same purpose. A green color corrector, essentially the same purpose. And these like glowy base priming products, they all serve essentially the same purpose. I personally only need one in my life, and I have this array because I review this kind of thing on YouTube. I very much wish that this came in like 2 or even 3 lighter shades than this. It would be so incredible if this was like the color of my concealers, if it was like the color of my neck, the color of my skin. That would be amazing. If that were the case, I would probably default to it above all of my other glowy base products. But it is falling on really the darker end of the spectrum of my glowy base products. So I'm not even sure that I'll end up keeping it. I might give it away to someone who doesn't have as many of this kind of thing as I do. But look how well it has performed. Just look how well it has performed. It's giving me everything that these other products give me. It's really, really exciting. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna powder a little bit. I'm gonna spot conceal a little bit, and then I'll give you some close-up comparison swatches. It really is a testament to the dewiness of this product that I felt like I had to powder down not just the sides of my face where I spot conceal, which I do to set the spot concealer, but underneath my eyes a little bit and my marionette lines a little bit. I like for these parts of my face under my eyes and on the sides of my mouth to be more satin, if not a little bit more matte, because if they're really, really wet look, those parts of the face, then it kind of enhances like the crevices in my mouth, and it can make me look kind of sweaty underneath my eyes. I like there to be like a little more of a satin quality in the center of the face, and then that dewiness out on the cheeks. And you know, if I really didn't want to have to powder it all there, if I really wanted to keep that from happening, I could have just put this on the cheeks. But I find with products like this, I tend to prime with them all over the face and then kind of like mattify as needed. So that is consistent with what happens when I use any of these 3. I'm not going to go on right now to apply eyeshadow or blush or lip product or anything like that, because I'm about to film a Patreon exclusive video in which I do a trial run for some bridal makeup. I've been brainstorming about what I want to wear for my civil ceremony just to get legally married to Joe, which is coming up at some point in the future, at some point in probably the not too distant future. And so I'm just gonna play around with makeup and put on a look, and that's gonna go up on my Patreon. So if you're interested in that, I'll probably also be talking about what I might wear. I'll link Patreon down below. You can become a patron of mine for as little as $1 a month. But before I go do that, let me give you the definitive arm of swatches of this product compared to all the ones that I have that are even remotely similar to it. So here's the Maybelline 4-in-1 Perfector. And again, this is the lightest shade, 00. I think I would need shade like -3. Here's Lisa Eldridge Elevated Glow in Crystal Nebula. These are both kind of serum-y, I would say. Very surprised by how serum-y the Maybelline one is. Here's Auric Glow Lust in the original formulation of Morganite. The new formulation, I believe, is a little bit lighter and less peachy. So again, this isn't the color of Morganite that's currently on the market. It's the first run, but you can see that even it is lighter than either of these 2 in color, and it's definitely pinker. Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter in the lightest shade, shade 1. It's also peachier than the top 2. It's looking lighter than the original run of Morganite right here. And Morganite and Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter are both, they're just thicker. I've blended them out here. I've put like a thin sort of broad swatch, but they're both thicker in consistency. They're more like, I don't know, like more like the kind of concealer that has some body and less like a serum, less watery. I actually have one more product that I think is pretty relevant. This is a Becca product that came in the mail recently. It's the Light Shifter Dewing Tint, and it's in Luminary, the first shade, the lightest shade. And this is also being billed as some kind of like combination, like primer, illuminator, BB cream kind of thing. And it's also thicker. It's more like a foundation product than, for example, the Chanel Les Beige, which is really, really watery, or the Glossier Future Dew, which is totally colorless. I'm not gonna even bother to swatch those because they're really different. But the Becca product is actually a lot like Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. It's got that thickness, that almost like tackiness. It's just, you know, it's darker and pinker than either of those two that are right above it. So again, here we have the Maybelline 4-in-1 shade 00. Here we have Lisa Eldridge Crystal Nebula. Here we have Auric Glow Lust in Morganite, the first run of it. And here we have Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter in Fair, shade 1. And then here we have Becca Luminary. And the Becca product is called the Light Shifter Dewing Tint. Do I wish that any one of them were at least remotely close to the actual color of my complexion? Yes, of course I do. For example, here's the Maybelline one right here, the one that I'm reviewing today, next to my Makeup Forever concealer, which is kind of like my go-to skin-like under-eye concealer. They're just not even in the same ballpark. And obviously it would be amazing if I could have one of these illuminating kind of primary base products in a color that would also brighten my skin. But because they are so sheer, and in the case of the one from Lisa Eldridge, and it turns out in this one from Maybelline, because they are so serum-y, almost kind of skincare-y, because they are that way, I can totally make them work. And I think that that's gonna be it. I'm not surprised that this isn't really a match for me. Drugstore products almost never are. Oh, that reminds me, there's one more thing that I wanted to talk about, which is the price point of this. So it's a drugstore product. I got it at Ulta. This isn't the, I went to the Ulta near me and I got it. And with tax, it ended up costing $14.22, which surprised me. That's like almost $15. That doesn't feel like a super budget option to me. I mean, obviously it's way less than the Charlotte Tilbury one, for example, but it's not as though it was $8. This product has less in the bottle than some of these. And it's interesting, they differ actually quite widely. So the Maybelline product has 0.68 fluid ounces in it, so less than an ounce, 0.68 ounces. The Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter has 1 ounce, and Auric Glow Lust has 2 ounces. And Glow Lust and Hollywood Flawless Filter are pretty much the same price. I think Glow Lust is $45 and Charlotte Tilbury is $44. So in this case, you're paying the same amount for a bottle, but you're getting twice as much product if you buy from Auric. And these are really pretty similar in most ways. Between Hollywood Flawless Filter and the Maybelline product, you're getting a little more than half as much product if you buy the one from Maybelline. So if we double the $15 that this costs, and if we're looking at it, you know, roughly doubling it roughly per ounce, it's gonna be around $30 an ounce, maybe a little bit less than $30 an ounce. And the Charlotte Tilbury is $45 an ounce. So it's still more expensive per ounce, but it's not as much more expensive per ounce as it is per bottle. Auric Glow Lust, on the other hand, is coming in at around $22, $23 an ounce. So it costs less per ounce. This unbelievably stunning bottle with this gorgeous skincare product in it, it costs less per ounce than this Maybelline product, because you're getting 2 ounces of this for $45. You're getting 0.6 ounces of this for $15. Lisa Eldridge is by far the most expensive per ounce because they're only 0.43, but essentially 0.4 fluid ounces of product in this. So it's not quite half. It's again, a little more than half as much as the product from Maybelline. A bottle of Lisa Eldridge Elevated Glow doesn't cost more than a bottle from Auric or a bottle from Charlotte Tilbury. The bottle is $38. But if you multiply that out with some loosey-goosey math, it's almost $100 an ounce. So this is almost $100 an ounce. Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter, $45 an ounce. Auric Glow Lust, $22, $23 an ounce. But actually it's last because Maybelline 4-in-1 is about $28, $30 an ounce. So here they are in order from the most expensive to the least expensive per ounce. But here they are in order from the most expensive to the least expensive per bottle. Very interesting tea. I'm gonna go now. That is it. I'm gonna go now and film my Patreon video. Really can't wait. I think it's gonna be a fun one. This was a fun one though. What fun. It's really exciting to me that the product works really well. It's obviously not ideal in a bunch of ways, not actually as inexpensive as one might think for a drugstore product, but still a pleasure to use. And again, I hope that I was helpful. I hope that you enjoyed it. And I really hope you're taking extra good care of yourself, because that's what'll make you the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.